Welcome to Back of the Room. Thanks for tuning in. My guest today is a stand-up comedian based right here in St. Louis. It's Tom Shelton, everybody.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good deal. I saw that you were doing some shows last weekend.
Yeah, I did St. Charles Funny Bone for Joe Mackey.
Nice.
And he was amazing. I hadn't seen him since Last Comic Standing years ago.
Yeah.
But he sold out most of the shows.
Yeah, I worked with him about a year ago, maybe, up here, and he's very funny. Very good joke writer.
Yeah, very clever and has his own style and pacing and everything. It's interesting to watch.
Yeah, he's funny, man. I don't know. It seems like some of those guys get a lot of followers from that Gutfeld show now.
Right.
Like,
and I didn't even know he was on that.
Maybe he's a guest every now and then.
He
I
is.
mean, I don't really blame people for going on there, but the first time I turned that show on, I was like, this isn't real, right?
Right.
Because it's so terrible. But I was just like, whatever. I mean, I guess it has an audience.
Well, and I would flip on Fox, and they'd have a thing called The Five.
Yeah.
They've got and Gutfeld's off on the right, and I was in radio. I did some journalism, so I was always like, what is this guy doing? He's like, I almost thought, oh, he's like a comedian in this newscast. And then I found out that Joe was on Gutfeld's show. He's a writer for him and stuff. And I saw some of his clips, and it all kind of made sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good, man. He's a funny dude. So shows went good. It was a full weekend, I guess.
Yeah. It was Thursday through Saturday.
Okay.
But the Thursday show was darn near sold out. I've never seen that many people there on a Thursday. The early shows Friday and Saturday were sold out, and the late shows were darn near sold out too.
That's awesome. I mean, Sunday and Thursday is always the ones you got to kind of watch out for.
Yeah,
But that's great. You mentioned you were radio. What'd you do in radio?
I was in radio probably 6 years. I did 2 years in Poplar Bluff, Missouri.
Okay, I've been there.
I've been there too. It was, I just started. I went to Mizzou, and then I went to Broadcast Center because I got such a great education at Mizzou. But I went down to Poplar Bluff, and this was in '79. I'm old. We'll talk about that.
There's cameras, Tom.
Yeah,
Everybody knows.
Yeah,
it's
right.
fine.
So I was down there, and Poplar Bluff at the time had 4 radio stations.
Okay, that's a lot, yeah.
And they told me that they did a demographic down there, and the area where it was closer to drive to Poplar Bluff than to Memphis or St. Louis, there was 250,000 people in that circle. So it was a bigger thing than I thought it was, but it was, anyway, I did country down there for 2 years. And then I went up to Columbia from 81 to 85. And for anybody who went to Mizzou or lived there, it was in KFRU, which was the AM KMOX of that town, and did a talk show at the end called Dial 1400 that had been on for years and still's on the air. And it was a talk show with guests, and they had just started subscribing where you could get guests, bigger name guests to call in. And I did phone interviews with Larry King and some people on different TV shows and stuff. It was pretty. I did a phone interview with Joe Besser of the Three Stooges.
Oh, damn.
He was.
How old? I mean, he must have been.
He was old. He had written a book called Not Just a Stooge, and I'm a huge Stooge fan. And the interview did not go well. He I don't know. He just wasn't in a good mood or something. And I was so unhappy with it. I aired it. I had it on reel-to-reel tape, and I pitched it. And for me to pitch an interview of me doing one with the Three Stooges is just insane. But at any rate.
Yeah, he must have not liked it. But that's cool. Like, how was Larry King?
Larry King was great. In fact, it was before he got on TV. So he was on the Mutual Broadcasting Network overnight. And I interviewed him, and I asked him, I can remember, I asked him a question. He said, "Oh, that's a great question." And I was like, "Oh my God, Larry King," But I had we were talking. He was on at midnight. I said, when would you like to do the show?" And he said, "Oh, from like 4 to 6 in the afternoon." And I said, "Would that be a different show than you're doing now?" And he said, "Oh, that's a good question." And people in the front office, there was glass, for the studio and stuff. They ran out and they were like, "Yay!" Because they knew what a big deal that was for him to say that. So that was, unfortunately, I don't have that tape either. But yeah, it was kind of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always liked Larry King. Like, he did it for a long time, but he would always just throw out like a random question every now and then. Quick, what's your favorite animal? Or he'd just be like, everybody's like, what the fuck? We were just talking about my book here, but all right.
And he had an interesting philosophy that he never read the book if he had an author on.
Okay.
Because he wanted to be like the audience and not know what was going on. And I picked that up mainly because I didn't want to read the book.
Yeah.
Because I had a bunch, once we started subscribing to some of these services and you get these authors on, I'd write it or call them and they'd send me books. So I had all these books, But it was probably 3 years doing a talk show in the morning.
Nice. That's got to be bullshit, though, when people are always saying, like, well, I read your book and I liked this.
Yeah.
I'm sure they looked at one page because you can't read all those books or see all those movies. Like, Jimmy Fallon's not seeing every movie that's out right now.
Watching them probably.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's cool, man. So you're from St. Louis originally?
St. Louis originally.
Okay,
yeah.
What area?
Born and raised in Ladue. Hey, that'll make people love me even more.
It's a nice area.
It is. It's okay. It's all right. I used to do some bits about that. In 1950, my dad found out that there was a farmer who owned land in Ladue, if you can believe it. And he was selling his farm and breaking it up into a subdivision. And my dad bought a lot and basically built a house. He was a contractor on it. And that's how I ended up there.
Okay.
And, in grade school and stuff, I didn't realize that there were people that had a ton of money. But by the time I got to high school and people were turning 16 and all these cars were showing up in the parking lot. But, we were not rich at all. As I say, we weren't rich. We weren't even Jewish. But that's another story.
Yeah, I mean, Ladue, I don't know. Like, you drive through there now, and it is crazy how big some of the houses are and everything. I mean, rich people got to live somewhere too, I guess, but it's more of the attitude. Like, I'm from a town of 160 people, so any town is bigger than where I grew up.
Right.
So I'm like, these elitist sons of bitches or whatever, but it's not good to generalize a whole area either, because not everybody is like that in Ladue, I'm sure.
Well, and I had friends who were, good friends who were just nice, normal people, and you'd go to their house and like, wow, this is a big house. But, and there were kids who were also like, I hate my parents, they got a lot of money. And I'm like, I'm sure everybody has friends that, whatever time they're growing up in. But it was, I'm still friends with a lot of people and see them and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah, well, nothing wrong with that. So are you still in that area kind of, or St. Louis?
We're, we were in Webster for like 18 years. We moved out to St. Charles County. My daughter's out there with her kids. And I wanted a ranch house.
Uh-huh.
All this 2-story Webster houses up and down the stairs, I'm 69. I'm going to be 70 in February. And my wife and I are like, we need a ranch house.
You got to plan it out, man. That's a good idea.
Yeah, because, you'd be doing laundry in the basement. And you're like, I got room for towels. Oh, crap. Now I got to go. Yeah, so we got a ranch house and we were in heaven.
Nice. Yeah, I don't like stairs in general, but I only got one flight of stairs, but still, I got other problems with the house, but what are you going to do?
How's it coming?
Not good. The HVAC guys were there today, so I guess that's going to be good to have heat before it's 0 out and we don't die, so that'll be nice.
Now, you've flipped houses?
Yeah, a couple in the past, just kind of more just like bought a piece of shit house and then fixed it up while I was living there.
Okay.
Which is not a good idea, but it is possible.
Right.
And that's what I did. But this one's a different animal because it's built in 1890 and just everything you tear into is, 140 years old or whatever. So it's just way more work than you would imagine.
All plaster walls?
Brick mostly, with some plaster over some things and just bad repairs, and they didn't take care of it, and it's just a can of worms. But we don't need to get into that right now. But
well, we had that in Webster. We had a house that was older and all plaster walls.
Yeah.
And every time you got something fixed, the guy would be like, well, as long as you're doing this.
Yeah.
And it was always, nothing made sense.
Uh-huh.
You'd go downstairs, you'd throw a circuit, and 5 different places in the house would turn off rather than, one bedroom or something.
Yeah, I've just had that. Like, we're doing this HVAC, so I was trying to get ready for these guys to come in and, like, help out with it and stuff. So there's this old wire running through the wall, and I'm like, damn, I hope that doesn't go to something. But had to get it out of the way, so I'm like, well, I'll just, test it and cut it, and then that night, now the lights don't work in the in the dining room, so that's another problem. But it's
we had a light switch, we never knew what it worked for.
Yeah,
we took it off, and there was one wire coming from it, and I don't know a lot of. I know you're supposed to have 2 wires, and it just
that old wiring is a fire hazard for sure. It's not great, but
anyway.
So are you retired now?
I'm retired since 2017.
Okay.
I was over 30 years with State Farm. Was a claim rep for 9 years. Was 20 years in IT, and then the last couple of years, I say I worked for State Farm Bank, and everybody always said State Farm had a bank.
Yeah.
They don't now.
Okay.
But it was, I needed so many years to retire, and got out at 62, and I'm just, I haven't had to get up and go to work every day since 2017.
That's pretty awesome.
It is sweet.
Yeah, my parents are retired now too, and they love it. Like, they still work on a lot of stuff just around the house and stuff, but not having to go and you can just do whatever you want. Like, what's your average day when you're getting up?
8.
Okay.
8:30. Yeah,
it's not bad.
Like if we have something where we have some work done in the house and they were going to be there at 7:30, and we're like, man,
yeah,
this is serious, And I finally, we started out, and I think one Saturday we went to the zoo and we're like, what are we doing here on Saturday?
Yeah,
it's crowded, So I make appointments for stuff. It's like 10 or 11. We don't need to be getting out earlier before that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Just kind of doing whatever you want then. Yep. Sounds like that's what I want to do. I'm ready to retire right now, but I don't think it's going to happen.
It's that eating every day is a problem. If you don't have it planned out.
Yeah. Also, this house from 1890 is not helping things financially, but what are you going to do? Yeah, man. Well, talking comedy stuff, all that kind of stuff. Before we get into that, though, just going to do a quick little rundown here. It's called That's My Favorite. So let's throw a few things out and just let me know what your favorite things are.
Okay.
Favorite sport?
Right now, it's MLS soccer.
Okay.
I am not a huge sports guy, and I know you get guys on here and they talk about this, and and I was never good at sports, and I just, I've been to a couple Cardinal games. I didn't go to my first Blues game till I was 65.
Damn.
Yeah. But we just started watching City SC, and I've never subscribed to a TV package before, but we've been watching it, been to a game. So at this point, it's soccer.
Okay.
Although I'm kind of digging the Chiefs. You can't argue with the Missouri team that's undefeated,
Yeah. I mean, I don't root against the Chiefs, but it just still feels weird because, I was a Rams fan, and then they left, and now everybody's hopping over to the Chiefs. I'm like, I don't know. I got Patrick Mahomes for fantasy football this year, and he hasn't. I mean, they're winning, but he's not putting up any points. I'm like, fuck. He's great every year, and then I get him, and I don't know. What are you gonna do?
Well, and I know that I had a guy ask me one time if I wanted to do a sports talk show, and I said no, because I know that people that watch sports, listen to sports, they know their stuff.
Yeah,
and back when he was in college and he did this, and then he got into that, and I'm like, I knew I was out of my league.
That was the right move, probably, because you would have got everybody calling in like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
And I didn't.
Like,
and I didn't.
Yeah. How about favorite band?
Oh, that's easy. Beatles.
Okay.
Yeah. I was 8 years old in third grade when the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan. And to me, there's the Beatles and there's everybody else.
Okay.
Now, there's a lot of good music in the everybody else. And even some of that's better than some of the Beatles stuff. But it's Beatles. Okay.
I like the Beatles. I got nothing against the Beatles. Not a big fan of their earlier stuff.
Yeah.
But it was of that time, I guess.
Well, and that's, I talk to young people like you, And you got to understand what was going on when they came out. There was nothing going on.
Yeah.
You know, it was Bobby Darin and, you know, the Coasters and all this stuff. And they were on Ed Sullivan February 9th, 1964. And people lost their fucking minds.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm sure that was cool to see. How about favorite concert you've ever been to?
Probably the Rolling Stones.
Okay.
We were, this was, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. We were way up high, but we didn't care. We were seeing the Stones for the first time. And a friend of mine who I worked in radio in St. Louis some too on weekends. I saw him and he was still with the station. I said, yeah, this is our first concert. We're so excited. Where are your seats? All the way up there. And he said, oh, I got some seats on the floor you can have.
Oh, damn.
But they're like the 28th row. And I'm like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, they were aisle seats. So my wife's sitting there and I'm sitting next to her. And about halfway through the show, the Stones stage starts coming down the aisle. And they are right there. We were in the front row. And, you know, the drummer had plexiglass around him with the set list on there. And I tell the story, we were sitting there, and I know when somebody in concert looks in a general area, everybody thinks, oh, he's looking at me, you know. Well, Keith Richards turns with his eyes, and it was like the devil looking. I mean, it was just like, oh my God, it's Keith Richards. It was a great show.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was that that was here in St. Louis, right?
Yeah.
Was that at the Dome or was it one of the big arenas, right?
It might have been at the Dome. You know, my memory is not
I don't know.
my best asset these days.
No, but that's awesome. I think my dad might have went to that actually. It was just randomly his buddy had a ticket and he was like, "You want to go?" And then they were super close somehow too. I was like, "Damn, that's awesome."
I will now. Second best was my first concert because, and I used to talk about this. I was 13. My brother was 17. Wanted to go to this concert. My dad said, "Yeah, you can go, but you take your brother." And I said, I came home. He said, "You're going to a concert with your brother." I said, "Who are we going to see?" He said, "I don't know. I think he called him Milk." You mean Cream? Cream was my first concert when I was 13, and and the concert wasn't the most eye-opening part of the evening. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
we can fill in the blank there. I think. Yeah, that's awesome.
Crazy. Yeah.
My first concert was Alan Jackson and Leanne Rimes.
There you go.
I mean, that was good enough. I mean,
absolutely.
But I was a little kid. I was like, all right, whatever.
Who'd you go with?
My parents.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know,
did
8 or I don't know.
Did you know who he was and stuff?
Yeah, like a little bit, but I still like Alan Jackson.
Sure, I like him too. In fact, I just was listening to a Mark Maron podcast with Keith Urban on the way over here. I like country. Yeah. That country was what I played in Poplar Bluff for 2 years.
Did you like country originally, or did you get?
You know, I played some country too when I was in college, but this was kind of the 79, 81, Kenny Rogers, Ronnie Millsap, you know, that stuff was happening. So that was, it wasn't like, you know, traditional country, although I like some of that too.
Yeah, I always thought it would be tough to be like a radio DJ on a station where you just hated all the music you had to play and just listen to it. But I'm sure there's ways around it. But I don't know.
And I think too, if you know, I think of the, you know, I did classical music when I was in college, and you had to announce it, and I learned that you do not fade out of a symphony because you're running up against the news. Classical music people don't
probably
like it
get a little
when you fade out. But I always thought about those classical announcers that got fired and had to go to another job.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you do country after that or something?
Yeah.
But
nice. Last one for you.
okay.
Favorite sitcom?
Wow.
It's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
You know, I of course Seinfeld, but you know, I will be honest. If I'm flipping back and forth and there's a Everybody Loves Raymond, I'll probably go to that because I don't know. It's more relatable, I guess, to me or something, with the
Yeah.
family and everything.
That's a good show.
But and I watch a lot. I don't know. I watch a lot of reels on Facebook. You start hitting them, and evidently I watch a lot of All in the Family ones because those keep coming up. And once again, I saw those live, and that was one of those shows that the next day everybody was talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just crazy what was going on that show.
Yeah, I've seen a few in the past, and it is funny. But that's not really around anymore. Like the one, you got it a little bit maybe with Game of Thrones. That's the last thing I can remember where like everybody was watching it and they would talk about it the next day. But that's about it.
Yeah, there's so many options. We had 3 networks.
Yeah.
In PBS. So if you were watching
Yeah.
one of them. Now that with the streaming and stuff, we go crazy. We want to watch something, so we buy that for a month or two and then get rid of it.
Yeah.
There's just so much stuff out there.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can get it going with Back of the Room. Everybody's going to be talking about this the day after it comes out. But we'll be right back with more Tom Shelton, everybody. All right, we're back. Sitting here with Tom Shelton in the back of the room. We're going to get into some comedy questions now. Where'd you start doing comedy? Was it here at the Funny Bone?
It was at the Funny Bone at Westport, but not at this location.
Okay.
It was the old location.
Across the way there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was, it's funny. I was kind of thinking about this, getting ready for tonight, and it's been 30 years, and I keep thinking, wow, you should be funnier if you've been doing this for 30 years. But it was, it was open mic night. Craig Hawksley was the host, and I bit it big. I had nothing. And I say 30 years, and I did an open mic night, and then I wouldn't come back for 6 months. And I do 1 or 2, and I went, because I was married, I had 3 kids, a job, and I traveled for work sometimes too. So it was really maybe around 2010 that I started like coming regularly.
I gotcha.
And working on stuff.
Yeah. I've said the same thing. Like, I'm coming up on 10 years, and I'm like, damn it, why am I not better by now? I thought I'd be further along or something, but what are you going to do? But, so what was that was before I started, obviously, but what was the old club like? Was it a similar setup at all or totally different?
It was, I don't know that I can remember the room, but I know they also had a restaurant connected to it. And they had some promotions where, you'd have dinner or whatever. I know there was a radio station that had a night at the Funny Bone and you bought dinner and the show. But it was, it was kind of the same thing. You just got up here and signed up. Now, there weren't nearly as many comics signing up.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't know if people know this, but, maybe, 15 comics make the list. And you may get 40 or 50.
Yeah, sometimes for sure. That's great. So back then it was... You pretty much show up and you're probably going up and doing more time probably?
Well, I think it was still 4 minutes, 5 minutes, but I seem to remember that whenever I showed up, I got on just like anybody else. And Chopin was here and Marlotti and stuff, and it was, it was just something fun to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good room. Like this room, obviously now, is just, it's hard to beat the setup, Been to a lot of other clubs, but it's pretty awesome. Yeah, I didn't, it was I did it once here, didn't do it again for 2 years, and then started doing it after that.
Right.
So it went bad the first time, went better the second time, and there was writing in between, obviously, but what was your writing process like now, or what do you do?
I try to sit down and write, and it just doesn't work. So as stuff comes to me, I've got my phone and I'll make a note or something.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of podcasts of other comedians, and that sparks an idea of something that I've been working on or thinking about. So then I'll take those things and we'll sit down and write on those. But yeah, I can't, these people who sit down for an hour a day, God love them, but I can't do it.
I've never done much of that either. Like, I've tried, but I kind of do something similar. But, I'm sure it would be helpful, just the act of doing it. But, damn, that's a lot of sifting through things that are never going to be anything also. But that's part of it, I guess. I need to do it more. But, everybody's got their own process. Who are some of your favorite comedians?
Well, like I was raised on the Beatles, I was raised on Johnny Carson. I mean, to stay up on Friday night and watch a Tonight Show, and especially the comedians there. But Carson, he was it. I
Yeah.
mean, he was the man. And I read a book that Ed McMahon said that he was naughty but never nasty. He kind of got away with some stuff
Yeah.
he had that boyish, look and stuff. But Carson, and then you get into George Carlin. It's just those, and Bill Cosby. I had a bunch of albums and I memorized them like everybody else. And it's one of those things where somebody said the comedian formerly known as Bill Cosby, and that's probably the best way to describe it, just to separate that. But nobody does stories like Cosby.
Yeah. Yeah, those are, I mean, those are a couple too. You mentioned Carson. There's a new movie. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called, I think it's called Late Night with the Devil.
Mm-mm.
It's on Hulu, but it was awesome. It's like this dude is going up against Carson, and then this one night they have this show and all this crazy shit happens. So it's kind of like a horror movie almost, but it's really good. The way they shot it, it looks like the 70s, and it's pretty cool. So I'd recommend that.
Yeah, he was just, well, and the other, as I say, there were 3 networks, and for a long time he was the only late night show. And you've all heard stories that you made it on Carson. You had a career the next
you
day.
were set. That's awesome.
And there's really nothing like that now.
No,
there's nothing where if you make this show or this festival or whatever, you're done. You're good.
Yeah. I've seen clips obviously of Carson, and it's very funny. But I think didn't a lot of the footage just get like, I don't know if it just went bad or like, because obviously it was on old film. Right. I don't know where I heard it, but I thought like most of the footage of his 20 years or however long.
I think the early stuff in New York, I don't know that there's much footage of even the first show. But when he kept making more money, and then you only have to work 4 nights and this and that, and then he owns the show. So I think that by the time he owned the show, he realized what he had and started keeping all that stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of footage of all those shows, particularly the early stuff that was black and white in New York that you just don't really see anymore.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, I should research that more to see what is available, because obviously you see clips and stuff like that, but seeing some full shows would be cool. You mentioned your first time didn't go well. Any other show that comes to mind as like a worse show?
It wasn't a worse show, but and this is such a stereotypical story. I did a charity thing with Dan Chopin, and it was for a charity that raised money for kids in hospitals and this and that. And they had a program and so forth. And it's the story of, before I went on, they had a film about this kid.
Yeah,
who was sick and dying and all this stuff, and so they did all this and they had this presentation, and now here's Tom Shelton, and I got up there and said, "This is such a great organization, but as a comedian," and they all do, it was like because it's a story that you hear comics tell, but that was one of the toughest ones where it's just like, I'm just going to go with it.
You got to try your best, but
you're
you
have to call it and say, folks, and they were, I think, aware of the situation.
Yeah.
That was a challenge.
It sounds like it. Yeah, I've heard other people in similar kind of deals, but they never seems like they set that up for success for the comedian. I mean, it's obviously it's tough subject and trying to raise money, and that's all great, but
well, something between that and the comedian, and do a raffle or I don't know, something, but it was it is what it is.
Any like advice from any comedians you've got that you kind of held on to?
And you just hear this, and it's easy to tell somebody to just be yourself and do what you do, because we we see these comics, and I went through a period where I was like, I'd see somebody, and it's like, oh, I'm going to do it like that, and then you'd see somebody else, and after a while, you just have to do you, and hope for the best and be confident about it, and find out what's relatable about you and stuff. I mean, now, so I'm old, but I think there are times when, and I don't always talk about being old, but just stuff in life, or if you go to the store, or customer service or whatever, that people can relate to. And the other thing too about getting older, and I'll sit back and you may talk about it, somebody who's 30 or 35 go, man, I'm getting old. And it doesn't happen one day. It's a little bit here and a little bit there. And you realize, damn, these young kids, well, I'm 32, but these damn 20-year-olds,
Yeah.
So it's if it's something that people can relate to. Now I will say that, like, Thursday night at St. Charles with Joe's crowd, there's a lot of gray hair there, and it's a Thursday night, so I'm figuring. I said, "Is anybody here retired?" Well, so I go a little into aches and pains and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's you just got to be you.
Yeah, I mean, that's good advice. It's that is great advice, but it does seem like, just from the outside looking in, I don't know shit about Hollywood or
Right.
agents or any of that
Right.
shit, but it seems like they all want you to have a thing.
Right.
Like, oh, this is the guy with the crazy hat.
Right. Right.
That shouldn't fucking matter. Like,
Or there's a big comic and they want the next one who's like him.
yeah.
Robin Williams, let's say, well, they want somebody who's bouncing all over the walls. Well, nobody does that. And the one thing I did hear people talk about, stealing material.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing stuff that's really your stuff and your experience and your slant, somebody else can say it, but, you're probably not going to have people stealing your material.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's good advice. We got the open mic coming up. Got any new stuff you're going to work on, or what's your plan?
I've got a couple things. I find that a lot of times I go back to stuff and work on it. I've got a great bit on cremation I'm doing right now.
You're not that old, Tom.
Well, I know, but what happens is, and people, who get into their 60s or late 60s, you realize you're much closer to the end than the beginning. And, especially if you've had parents who were ill and passed, there's some planning and some, well, what do you want to do, with your wife or whatever. So I talk a little bit about that and just kind of aches and pains and stuff. But,
For the cremation bit, have you thought of, I want to be cremated, ice cream? Don't have to.
No, I haven't come up with that.
I wouldn't
yet.
recommend that, but you wouldn't have to hire a caterer. Everybody
Well, I
gets a
will
little
tell you
cannibally.
one of
Yeah,
my,
it's probably not great.
I will give you one of my things that I just worked out this last weekend, that a lot of people when they die, they give their body to science, which is a great thing. I'm going to give my ashes to the Catholic Church.
Nice.
And the first time I did it, I didn't do that, and they were like, "Huh?" But you
get it. Yeah.
That's the nice thing about doing a weekend. You got 5 or 6 shows in a row, and it was working by then.
Yeah.
And that's, so I figure that's how I'm going to leave my mark on society. Is some march. I'll be all over people's foreheads.
It's a good way to go.
There you go.
I got a segment for you here.
Uh-oh.
Done it a couple times in the past. Don't have to worry.
Okay.
It's called Over Under. So basically, I'll just rattle some stuff off. We're going to talk about if it's overrated or if it's underrated.
Okay.
St. Louis guy.
Uh-oh.
Emo's Pizza. Overrated, underrated.
You are just going straight for the jugular. Well, I can't just say it's rated. I have to pick one or the other.
I guess you could go properly rated. I'll take it off if you want. I get started.
No. I like it, and I know that there are people who can't stand the cheese. And my brother, who moved away years ago, came back, and I was trying to explain, and we're in the store. I go, "Now see, this is a cheese." He's like, "Well, none of those are Italian cheeses." I'm like, "I know.
Yeah.
It's just I like it."
I like it too, but I would say probably a little overrated. Because, it's only here. Anything that
well,
is...
now they're shipping it. You can get it
Yeah,
elsewhere.
I guess.
Yeah,
But I like it. I do like it, but I'm not... Anybody who comes into town, a comedian's like, oh, what should I go to? I'm never like, you got to try Emos. I'm like, we have Emos. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's different. It's good, but nobody's impressed.
I have family members that come in, and they're like, and they want to do St. Louis.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so we'll go to Ted Drew's. We'll go to Emos, We'll try not get shot at. Things that happen here in town.
Yeah, that's all, good stuff. That not getting shot, but... Yeah, I like all the regional food here, like the gooey butter cake, the Emos, the Ted Drew's, toasted wraps, all good. Mm-hmm. But I'm not a big. You gotta try this. I don't want to oversell it.
Well, I'm like, if you want to get a taste of St. Louis, you try this. But I don't know that it's the best pizza in the world.
Okay.
I'm convinced that whatever you grew up eating, however your mom made chicken or whatever, that's how you think chicken should taste.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're used to. Unless your mom's cooking sucked.
Yeah, that's true. Throw another one at you. M. Night Shyamalan. Overrated, underrated?
Oh, boy. I'm not big on... I would say overrated because I'm not big on... And I'm not even sure what the genre is, but it's mostly...
Thriller, horror, I guess, kind of deal.
Yeah,
like The Sixth Sense, I think, was his first one.
Yeah, I like Sixth Sense, but I'm not horror movies, since I don't know. I'll say overrated.
Okay.
I'm not huge into that genre.
Okay.
If I'm sure of what the genre is.
Yeah, I'm not that sure either. It just seems like a guy that, I'd say overrated a little. He's got some real great ones, but he's got a few that are just bad.
Yeah.
They gave him a lot of shots.
Right.
Like usually that first one was good. He gets a couple more.
Yeah.
But I remember like Signs, I think was him. And the one where it was like Mark Wahlberg, did you see that one? They were like, people were just falling off buildings and like the breeze would come through and everybody would die. And then it was like the trees are getting back at everyone. I'm like, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I know we need to be better to the environment, but this is just a bad movie.
You know what I do like in Sixth Sense was kind of this. I like to not be able to guess where it's going.
Yeah.
If I can it's that guy or she's going to die or something.
Yeah.
But when it's something like, holy crap, I didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
I love that too. And he has had some good ones. Like I liked Unbreakable, that Bruce Willis one was good. And even like Split and Glass, I think that was all in the same kind of universe or whatever. Those are pretty good. But I don't know. It's hit or miss.
Yeah.
So
well, it's hard to nobody has single thing they do. There's actually one or two Beatles songs I don't like. I hate to say that, but
which ones?
Hey Bulldog.
I don't even know if I know that one.
Yeah, well, you don't. It's you shouldn't. But I mean, so much of the stuff was classic.
Yeah.
There's a couple I'm like, all right, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. All right. Well, so we say slightly overrated, but still pretty good for Shyamalan.
Yeah.
Tom Brady.
See, that's a sports question.
But you're from St. Louis.
I know.
I'll just answer for you. He's overrated as shit, and I hate his guts.
Okay.
He stole our Super Bowl, and I'll never forgive him.
Yeah. I don't know enough about sports to make an intelligent comment, so I'll agree with you.
Very good, but never got in trouble. I don't get how they never got in trouble for just blatantly cheating and stealing our Super Bowl.
The most I know of Tom Brady is the roast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty good roast.
Yeah, it was.
I got a tough one for you. Children, overrated or underrated?
Oh, jeez. It depends on the day. I would say underrated because there's just so many. I've got 3 kids. I've got 4 grandkids. And grandkids is better than kids. But
I would imagine, yeah.
Man.
Just
yeah, good night. See you.
Yeah.
But, no, it's just the whole, when you have kids and you're seeing stuff through their eyes and they ask questions and you're like, damn, good question. I underrated. They're the best.
That's a good answer. I don't have kids, so I can't really weigh in on that one.
But
But
you know of.
yeah. Let's don't write in if you.
Kathy, he's right here.
Yeah. Last one. It's a Halloween season.
Okay.
Jack-o'-lanterns, overrated or underrated?
Probably overrated.
Yeah.
Although I did think, I lived through the time where you just took a knife and cut triangles out, and then they got those little X-Acto knives with the, stencils and stuff. That was pretty cool for someone who had lived through the other stuff. But they always end up drying out or being smashed on your doorstep or something.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you got a week maybe of after you cut it, and then it's just going to be a moldy mess.
Yeah.
We used to shoot them. We would just I lived in the country, so
Right.
just carve one. After a week or so, go shoot it with a shotgun. It was fun.
We'd blow them up with firecrackers or whatever. But it's fine.
Yeah, overrated on jack-o'-lanterns.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love pumpkin pie, but
I
do
love
you
pumpkin
know
pie.
what part of the pumpkin is going into the pie? Because I don't.
I've never made one, but I played one on TV. That's an old joke that you would. I think the pulp stuff, when you dig out the pumpkin.
Okay, so the gooey stuff by the seeds?
Yeah, not the seeds, but the stuff that's
the
seeds, the mushy stuff.
Okay. I
Um,
guess that would make sense.
yeah, I thought it came from a can.
Yeah, I do. That's all I know.
Or
Like you get the
Tippins,
can, you dump it in the thing, and you're done. But
yeah, no, I think that's what it is.
So I think instead of jack-o'-lanterns, we just start making more pumpkin pies.
Well,
leading into Thanksgiving, you
Yeah.
know.
That's the idea: is you buy the pumpkin, you cut it out, you make the pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
So, using everything just as the Indians did.
Yeah. All right. Not a fan of jack-o'-lanterns.
Yeah.
Anything you might think is over or underrated? You want to throw out there? Jake Beckman.
Well, which way are you going on that one?
I think you know which way I'm going, but
Okay.
you can throw something else out there.
I think being nice is underrated.
Yeah.
Being kind and just saying, "Oh, that's your opinion. That's great."
There's not a lot of that, especially in this time of the election.
Not a week before the election.
Yeah.
No, we've already voted, and I do think that, and this has to be possible. We talked about technology, where when you vote, they should be able to give you a code that you put into your devices, and you no longer have to hear political ads or stories about the polls or anything like that. That has to be doable.
That doesn't seem that bad.
Yeah.
Or maybe just even voting from your phone. How hard? I mean, I guess their theory is it could get rigged or this or that. But then I saw a thing on TV where some dude lit a polling box on fire.
Oh, no,
like,
I
what
saw
the
that.
fuck?
Yeah, I mean,
They're really.
that's wrong.
Yeah.
I don't care which side you're on. That's wrong. I mean, that's really wrong.
Yeah,
That's
it's
people are
arson. I
voting.
mean, in
That's the
general.
whole-
Yeah.
That even the arson, just the idea of destroying. You talk about destroying people's votes. That's doing.
Yeah.
That's
I wonder if they can go back and say if you voted here, you can re-vote or
I
something.
think they.
Probably.
I think the area was talking about because the way I understand, I didn't vote by mail, but if you register or something, you have a ballot. So they should be expecting that ballot, and if it doesn't come,
I got you.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just
No, that's good.
You know.
Be nice. I
nice.
try to be nice. I don't know if I'm always great at it. I think I'm kind of quiet and introverted, so I'd probably come off like a dick. But what are you gonna do?
there are times when I'm like, I try to be nice, and I think I am, but there are times when I'm like, oh, Tom, why did you do that?
Yeah.
But
Nobody's perfect, but that's a good one, I think, to end on. Thanks for being here, man. What do you got coming up? What's your social media? All that kind of stuff.
I'm on Facebook. I just changed my Instagram to @TomSheltonComedy because I looked and it was @TomShelton7. And I thought, oh, that's catchy.
Yeah. You
right.
got Tom Shelton Comedy
There you go.
available. Get it.
There
Yeah.
you go. So yeah, that's going on. I've got a show booked for July
Okay.
for Heroes are some show for first responders.
Okay. Cool.
And I got to do 15 minutes clean. So
Well, you got some time to work on.
That's why I did it, because it was that far away. I thought, okay, and that'd be a goal.
Yeah.
And I'm not that off color, but You know.
Yeah.
So that's a goal for next year to be clean.
Nice. Well, thanks for being here again. Make sure you check out Tom Shelton, everybody. Thanks for listening to Back of the Room.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.